Okay, I'm hoping this doesn't give me like massive double chinness, but we'll just deal with it. Yeah, so I messed up my foot. It like started snowing yesterday here, and then it like half melted. So I messed up the bottom of my foot while walking the dogs when it was like kind of melted, with like some of it being water and some of it being piercing ice. So we're sitting down today to do this review. I didn't do a wrap-up video last Sunday, so I'm going to split this into 2 videos just because I read about 10 books, I think, between last week and this week. So I will do this video this Sunday here, and then the part 2 will probably go up on Thursday, I'm gonna think, so you have just bonus video this week. Yeah, hello, if you are new, my name is Sam. Thanks for checking out this video. If you get to the end and liked it, then give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe and the bell notification button. I'm also aware that I look very unput together, incoherent. Oh no, are we gonna start playing this game, Watson? Hello. You just gonna watch? Oh, we're into this now too. Okay. You can't have one get attention and not the other. We're gonna take your collar off because it jingles. Do you want to just... Okay, we'll sit here for now. So, yeah, I've just been like paying attention to beauty stuff recently, because Tati Westbrook has a palette coming out, and then Shane Dawson's palette is coming out, and then I was like, I should probably look through all my makeup, because I know my current only eyeshadow palette is almost empty, and like the only colors that I use that are the neutrals, so I'm just trying out all my makeup, and I was like, I don't know how long it's been since I've worn this lipstick, so I know it doesn't go together. We're just going to deal with it today. Yeah, so I want to tell you about the books that I read in the past couple weeks, and you also get bonus dog content for however long I feel like being sucky-uppy. Hello. So first thing that I read, that book is 13 Doorways, Wolves Behind Them All. If you follow my Instagram, you've seen in my vloggity content how unnecessarily difficult it was to get this, but I finally got my physical copy. I have read Laura Ruby's, the first book of her York series, which I enjoyed, but I have not read her other book. I think it's called The Bone Gap, which got a bunch of praise too. But I was so excited because this cover is amazing. I love this title. It is kind of a wordy title, but I really do love it. And it was nominated for at least 2 awards since it's come out. I think it was like a National Book Award finalist and winner of the Michael L. Prince Award, which made me just even more curious about it. And I'm really glad that I read this. It is blurred by Melissa Albert, is the only one that I know on the back for context, but I have never actually read The Hazelwood, so I can't tell you how close that is. So it is set in the United States, but during the beginning of World War II, so the U.S. isn't necessarily involved in it, but they're fully aware of everything that's going on, and near the beginning of this, people in the United States start enlisting, and there is the attack on Pearl Harbor. So the main character, Frankie, is in an orphanage with her sister. I can't remember if her sister is younger or not. I think she's younger than her, and her older brother, though her mother, she's passed away in the past, that her father is not financially capable of taking care of them, so he gives them over to the orphanage. He's gotten a girlfriend that she just does not like, and it seems like her kids are also at the orphanage. They all of a sudden show up, get married, and inform them that he's moving to Colorado to build a new business because he thinks there will be better business opportunities. He takes the older brother and leaves the 2 sisters there, and then takes his new wife's kids. So he is garbage for the full book. I'm gonna be totally honest. Like, there's none like, oh, like it was different. No, he's just a garbage father, and then he pays them in meatballs and is like, we good that I abandoned you? We're cool? Great, awesome. And then there's just a whole other thing between him and the stepmother that kind of unravels very near the very end. I wish that had been played up more throughout the whole plot because I found that one really, really interesting. I found it really interesting, though, as well, that all of the women in this book play different roles. And it's honestly, it seems to be like those are the roles that women had as options in the time period. That was kind of it. So Franny is that adventurous that she wants to, you know, just marry someone that she has a crush on, that they're in love in this book, and that she wants to be her own person and, you know, support herself and have a good life. And then there's her sister, who is just this boy crazy person who's like, well, I have to marry someone in order to support myself, duh, obviously. And then there is her stepmother, who is this like swinging in, just marrying whoever because you want to be taken care of, in whatever capacity you see that. And then there's the nuns in the orphanage running it. And when I look at it, I was like, literally, that's the options that women had at the time period. So you get all these different perspectives, and, like, you can see the difficulty in all of them. I also feel like I've read an awful lot of books pretty recently that analyze the role of religion and churches in just institutions in history, which I think was really... I don't know, I keep seeing the word interesting, but I think it is a really interesting topic that we're finally analyzing, because we just give the church passes for everything when they've actually done some horrendously messed up stuff that they should be held accountable for. It is also interesting we get a perspective of a ghost, and so we see someone who's taken that path that is not deemed appropriate for women in this time period of society, and what has happened to her and her downfall. And it's actually quite interesting of, like, literally there's no good situation going on here for women. It's not necessarily all much of a plot driven. It's very character driven. There's also an analysis of mental health and how we treated it at the time, and this auto assuming that women are crazy whenever they want to be different, but we excuse everything that men do. So I thought that was really, really, really good. And I can understand the props and the awards for it. I think the main character is definitely my favorite, and even the characters who I didn't like her father, I feel like they were necessary in this book, and they're all just really well written. So I highly suggest this book, actually, and I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I picked up The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James, and I was so unsure about this book, because I've heard, like, medium to meh things about it. It was, like, pretty hyped up at library conferences that I went to for right before its release. So the main character is the first human born in space, and it all starts, she is on the satellite that is essentially going to see if, I think it's Mars, is habitable. And she has been sent, she was born there on her, on the spaceship with her parents. Her parents have since died, which comes up quite a bit in this, along with the rest of the crew. And so she's just alone in space and hoping that when she gets to Mars, there's some cryogenically frozen people on the ship that she's supposed to, like, have gone with and, like, settled the planet with. But she's very much on her own, awake. Could you stop snoring? Dude, you do this every time. Every time. I love you, but it's unnecessary. You're such an attention seeker. But yeah, so all of a sudden, communication between her and Earth stops, and then she all of a sudden gets a notice that they have sent a second satellite that they've made upgrades and improvements on since they built her spaceship, like, almost 20 years ago. So it's going to be getting to her faster, and she can, like, join that person settling the planet, which is great. She's not going to be alone, so she starts communicating with that ship as well, and of course it's the boys. She starts, like, kind of falling in love. Then she gets a notice from, honestly, it seems like if Russia took over the world, if Putin kind of got his dream, saying that World War II essentially has erupted, all of Europe is gone, they're now under the control of this dictatorship government. And she doesn't know what the heck to do, and they keep sending her, like, software upgrades, and she doesn't understand, like, should I take them? But my ship is out of date. What's gonna happen? And then she's going through this downward spiral of she's lonely, and sad, and dealing with crap, and she just doesn't have the tools to survive, and also being like, well, this person's coming on this spaceship, maybe I should wait and figure this stuff out, and things don't go exactly as planned. I thought a good chunk of this was unnecessary. Oh, sorry, 300 pages. This could have been shortened easily. I think it would have probably stood better as a novella and given a bit more intensity, because the things that happen in the plot are quite, like, oh my god, frantic. But then there's these long stretches of just mundanity. Is that a word? Mundanity? That was unnecessary, I think. I don't think it necessarily really contributed all that much to her character growth or anything like that. We have the world parameters set because it is our world, so it was just... It made it less exciting when all those hyped up scenes happened. I think the ending was a bit of a cop-out too. I think it was a very easy choice that I was like, hold on, we went through this whole path of being set alone in space, which is a terrifying concept to me. I mean, the introvert in me is like, awesome, but then my brain is like, something's gonna go wrong, it's gonna break mechanically, and I'm the most useless person when it comes to mechanics. Thank God for my next door neighbor, but he wouldn't be in space with me. Like, what would just the anxiety I felt even just thinking about that was just the biggest of hell no's. So then we got to the end, and I was like, that was really this whole thing, really. And I think the side character, the villain, wasn't really all that well developed. So I had issues with it. It wasn't terrible. And I think it's still an insanely pretty book. And I think I am going to keep it. Just because the cover and the underdust jacket are really cool. And I will follow this author. It wasn't a huge disappointment for me because I was going in with such low expectations. So I think in the end, 3.5 or 3 out of 5 stars. But if you like kind of slower paced sci-fi, this might actually be a good book for you. And just seriously, the concept of being cut in space and being told like, oh, the world has imploded in a third world war. You're kind of now under the control of a dictatorship. I would not function under that. Like I would just anxiety, panic attack, and be done with it. Then I read the book that everyone has been raving about, Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. I'm pretty sure it's Mahurin. I think that's what her Twitter bios, or her Twitter handle said for a while. So this is what, I think it's supposed to be a duology right now, but I think it did really well. It's probably going to be expanded into a trilogy. I would not be surprised. And they've released the title for the second one. I think it's called like Honey and something. Anyways, it's a witch and a witch hunter get married, and the ramifications and fallout of that. This book was like seriously hyped up in every way possible I could imagine. I really did enjoy it. I think the hype was overkill though. I think if I hadn't heard any of that and I would have gone into this being like, oh wow, it's amazing, I probably would have enjoyed it even more. I am definitely going to read the sequel. I'm glad I own it, so I'm not bashing it by any means. I really liked the characters. I really liked the conflict. The magic system was a little wonky in my mind. I don't quite know that I understand like the restrictions, the parameters, and the rules of it, but I can deal with what was given, and hopefully that'll be expanded upon more, despite its size, because it is definitely a fatter book for a YA. I didn't feel like it dragged all that much, honestly. I think she used the author, especially for a debut, she used the time and space effectively to develop the world, to develop all the characters, to develop a conflict. She has a larger cast with the background characters and all of the lineage reveals. This book is like heavily dedicated to lineage reveal tropes, which, huzzah, another reason why I really enjoyed it. That is my thing. And I'm really excited with where book 2 is going to go with how this book ended conflict-wise. I don't want to say much about the plot. It's just a witch and witch hunter get married and all of the things that pushed for that to happen, which was one thing when I remember when I was talking in the TBR video, I was like, how does that happen? That is explained. So yeah, really thoroughly enjoyed, 4.5 out of 5 stars. I did a reread of The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I love this book. It blew me out of the water the first time I read it. It does not make sense that this is a debut by any means. If you like anything Russian-y, feeling inspired, the setting, the history, all that stuff, this is a wonderful trilogy. I'm planning to read book 2 and 3 this upcoming week, and finish off the trilogy, and I'm just really excited. I hope Catherine Arden releases some more adult or YA stuff soon. I know they expanded her Small Spaces middle grade series to 4 books, so hopefully we'll get, she seems to write pretty quickly, so hopefully we will get more content from her ASAP in the YA/adult realm. And lastly, for this video, I read Capturing the Devil by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the 4th and sadly final book in the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. I also have 2 covers now. My friend Joanne was so freaking nice that she sent me this. It's the gold dress and the black background, when the original cover is actually the opposite. I don't know which I prefer. I don't know. I actually think I kind of like the original a bit more, but it's really nice having both those dress jackets. I don't know why. My friend somehow, for some reason, ended up with it. But, yeah, so this follows Audrey, Rose, and Thomas as they are in the United States after the whole thing with Titanic and Houdini, and it is the H.H. Holmes haunted house of horrors, or whatever you want to call it, which we all kind of assumed as soon as they said World Fair. And I thought this was really interesting because a lot of the other 3 books follow very heavily the murder mystery aspect of it, with, you know, some evening scenes where like Audrey and Thomas flirt together, and I think that was like cute, and it built up to what I love Audrey, Rose, and Thomas. But this book focused a lot more on the romance and tying those strings up, and they had an actual conflict as a couple, which I feel like they had been able to avoid up until this point. You know, Escaping from Houdini had a little bit, but really not much. This is a very heavy, like, people purposely standing in their way so that they can't be together. And when you've spent 3 books developing this, we're all Audrey, Rose, and Thomas stans. It seems everyone is. So having someone come in and make that conflict, in addition to having H.H. Holmes, such a notorious killer. I thought that was really interesting and a really like peak to end the series on. And I say too, like I'm sad that it's the end of this trilogy, this quartet. But honestly, I think it's time. I think it was time for a 10. I'm glad that this was a very satisfying conclusion for me. It gave me everything I promised. I don't think they did any cheaping out. I feel like the choices that she made were on par with the choices that the characters would have made in all the rest of the trilogy. The quartet or whatever. And I feel like sometimes authors really struggle when they get to the end, when they're like, originally in the book they probably planned to kill off characters, and when they get to the end they're like, I can't do it, I'm too attached to them. And I can get that even as a reader. So I feel like she knew where she was going to the end, and I loved the epilogues. They were really nice and sweet and cute, and I love that we just get Audrey Rose and Thomas being Audrey Rose and Thomas, and them being tested and their morals of who they are versus what the time period expects of them. It was very, 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 it was a good ending for me. I really did enjoy this. And yeah, so I think I gave this like a 4 out of 5 stars or 5 out of 5 stars. I don't know that there was really anything I would change in this. And it was an enjoyable read. So that is the first half of the books that I've read in the last couple of weeks. I will put all of the links to these books in the description down below, along with links to all of my social media. If you follow me, I will follow you back.